I can share the link now. Share to group. Here we go. This one. If anyone else fancies sharing the link to this workshop, I'd really appreciate that. It's always nice to get a few more people interested in what I'm doing. So I do 2 workshops a week at the moment, so Tuesday evenings and Saturday mornings. Really enjoy it, showing people how to make new stuff. Yeah, so that's what I do. I'm just going to give it another few minutes because there's quite a lot of people who've got kits for this one. You don't need a kit though. All I'm using today is I've got some wire. That's 1mm thick wire. I've got some thinner wire. This one I'm using is 0.3mm, but you can use anything up to about, well, 0.4 is fine. 0.5 might start to get a bit thick, but it will probably still work. I've got this decorative wire, which you certainly don't need, but it does make it pretty. It's like a kind of coiled wire. And then I've got 2 selections of beads. I've got like some bigger beads for making the actual wreath. And then I've got a selection of smaller beads for adding on the fun bits. You don't need, it's actually less beads than you think. You need about 20 of the bigger beads. I've got more than that out, but you need about 20 of the bigger beads and about, like, it sounds like a lot, you need like about 60 of the smaller beads, but it's not as many as it sounds because they're little. They take up less room. Yeah, so just give it a minute more. And then we'll get started. Just want to see if anyone else shows up. Okay, well, let's get started then, everyone. I'm going to move in for a close-up because it's quite like fiddly work, so it's better if you can see exactly what I'm doing. So I'm just going to re-angle the camera. Here you go, get close up of my Christmas jumper on the way down, that's nice. So you might feel a bit sick for this bit, so look away if you get motion sick. Let me just check the angle on that.
Stay free.
Okay, let's see. Just move that up closer. And move that into the middle of the table so we can all see what I'm doing. So this is what we're making, the beaded wreath. Let's put that down there so it's out of my way. And we're going to start with our thick wire. So the wire is 1mm thick and our selection of larger beads. So I'm going to thread these onto the wire. Oh, sorry. First things first, you want to put a kink at one end so your beads don't come off. Then you're going to thread your beads on. You're going to do that selection however you want. Just keep adding those beads on. Just think about your, think about what you want them to look like. A little bit. What selection you want, what colours you want where. And you want about 20 beads on here. However, if you get to 15 and you think that's big enough, you can stop. If you do want to go to 25, you can do that too. So it's just about choosing a number that works for you. I'm using a mix of green and red and gold beads because for me that's very Christmassy, but you can mix it up if you want. If you want to make your wreath multicoloured, you make a rainbow wreath. I don't mind. It's your wreath, you should do what you want. Oh, I'm just having a little faff about which bead to put on next. So this bit of the process is quite straightforward. Just threading beads. If you do get, you might get a little kink in your wire which stops the beads going on easily, and if so, you just give it a little bend to straighten it out again. And then just thread a couple more beads on. 1, 2. I'm just going to stop and have a little count. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I think I'm going to aim for about 20. This could be about half my wreath. That would be fine. Just keep threading those beads on. I can tell it's getting close to Christmas because everyone's out doing their Christmas shopping, and you're all, I know lots of you are planning on doing this workshop because you've bought kits, but you're obviously busy. You'll catch up on it later, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's 16. If you do catch up on it later, do drop me a comment just to say you're doing it. And of course, please, 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 I want to see your photos. Send me some photos of what you do. It's my favourite bit. So if you're not already a member, check out my group, Get Creative Free Online Workshops. That's a great place to share any photos of things you make, anything you make really, things you make in these workshops or things you make at home. It's all about crafting for fun, crafting as a hobby and for like mindfulness. So please join my group. You'll like it there. It's a nice place to be. So that's 20 beads. I'm just have a look at it. 20-ish beads. Seems a little bit smaller than this original one. So I might just add a couple more beads on. Sorry about that. Someone tried to call me. I hate it when someone tries to call me during my workshop. It's the worst. But you know, the phone's got to be connected to the internet or you wouldn't be able to see me. Right, just going to keep threading beads on, just a few more. Maybe up to about 25, something like that. And the hole in that one. Just check that size again. Oh yeah, I think that's a good size. I'm happy with that size because it's going to get spread out a bit more when you add the little beads in. So now we're going to put a bend at that end to hold all our beads together on our bit of wire, like so. And then you're going to spread the beads out along your bit of wire so they're not all clumped together. Now you're going to get a piece of your thin wire. So I think you don't want it to be too long because it will get tangled up. So maybe about 2 foot, something like that. Doesn't matter too much. You can use wire snips, or if you've got an old pair of scissors, they work great for cutting this kind of wire. Just give it a snip. And you're going to start off with your bead at one end. And you're going to start by poking, and hopefully the hole on your bead is big enough for this, poking your thin wire through the hole on the bead. So you've got your thick wire and your thin wire both running through the hole on that bead. You're going to take the little, you're going to have one end of the thin wire long and one end short. The short end, you're just going to twist around the main bit of wire to hold it secure. The long end, you're going to start adding on the little leafy decorative bits. So I'm just going to bring my plate of small beads into the shot. and I'm going to show you how to do that. So choose a nice one to start with, whatever you want. So I've gone for one of this kind of 2 styles of beads here. We've got these ones that are like little donuts, and we've got like kind of round ones. So I'm probably going to use a mix of them in each gap. We're putting about 3 beads in each gap. So what you do, you thread that bead onto your wire, slide it down to the end, then you move it back up about 1/2 centimetre, and then you just twist it. So you're twisting the 2 wires together. You're twisting the wire so the 2 wires, so the wire, yeah, I think you understand. I'll try and explain it better when I find the right words. Right, I'm going to add another bead on now. 1/2 centimetre might be a bit big gap, so you want to mix up the sizes of gaps as well. So this one, I might only move a few millimetres up my wire, and then you hold both wires running down, pinch the bead between your fingers, maybe hold the other bead out of the way so it doesn't get caught up, and then just give it a little twist. And then a 3rd bead. So I've gone 2 greens, so I might put a red on here as well. Go for a nice little red. Slide it down, and again, maybe this one just a short one as well, just a couple of millimetres. Give it a little twist. So there we go, I've got my 3 beads and are running around my big bead. So now I'm just going to slide that thin wire up through the middle of the next bead. So it's running through the centre of the big bead that's on the big wire. So it runs next to the big wire through the centre of that bead. And then I move that bead up to sit next to my cluster of 3. So can we see what I've done there? Oh, hi Susan. Oh, you made it. So what we've done, Susan, so far, you might be able to see, is we've threaded all the big beads onto the main wire, and now I'm just adding the little beads on. So when you add the little beads on, what you're doing, and we're doing quite a lot of this, so do feel free to take your time catching up, adding your big beads onto the middle wire. So you put your little bead onto your thin wire, you run it down to the end, and you give it a little twist. So some of these beads, these ones are kind of rubbery, so they're a bit harder to twist, but I've got faith in you, you can do it. Also, think about the front of the wreath and your back of your wreath. You'll be able to manipulate this later and bend them round, but you kind of want to keep these clusters of 3 little beads you're doing concentrated at the front of your wreath. That would be my advice to you. But yeah, don't worry too much about that because you can totally manipulate that later. Oh, I've got some of these little chips of gemstones as well you might have in your kit. It's a real mix what went into the different kits, so you'll have some of these beads, maybe not all of them. Again, so you just bend the wire back round so they're lying next to each other, the 2 wires that have gone, well, the 1 wire that's gone in bead and out the other side, and you twist them together. So you're putting about 3 beads in the gap between each big bead. And then I'm going to slide it down through the next bead. I'm thinking about using some greens because I've got a red coming up in the middle. So again, just slide your bead on, slide it down till it's a couple of millimeters away from the big bead. I want to see if you can see that as a close up. Yeah, so you can see what I've done there. And then you're just going to pop a twist in. Oh, Tracy and Kim are here as well, nice. Yes, I can bring the camera closer to the beads, no problem. I was wondering if it's a bit hard or a bit far away. It's kind of hard for me to see what I'm doing. Okay, there we go. Oh, hi Lynn. Oh, everyone's here. Just running a bit late. So what we've done so far, I feel like I should start from the beginning, is we've threaded all the big beads onto the main wire. And now we've threaded a thin wire, the thin wire, down through the big beads. And we're stopping at each gap between the big beads and adding on a little bead. And to do that, we slide it down the thin wire till it's a few millimeters from the thick wire. And then once it's a few millimeters away, we bend the wire over and give it a twist. So they attach together. It is really fiddly and hard to show you on camera. Probably should have scaled this project up, but I don't think I've got enough big beads for it. So I'm hoping that you can kind of get the idea from my words and what I'm building here. I'm not sure I can get the camera any closer really. I think if I do, I'll be in danger of smacking it. Right, so I'm going to put another bead on. Slide it down so it's just a few millimeters away from the thick wire and twist it into place. So let's do, I'll just take a close up so you can see what it's looking like so far. Can you see that? And then let's move on to the next clump of beads. So you take the thin wire and thread it down through the middle of this next bead. So if you find a bead and you can't get the thin wire down through the middle, so I'll pretend it was this bead, I could have got the thin wire down through the middle of it. You can either just run the wire around the outside, or you can start to use some of this decorative wire. So you just cut a piece, you just check the size of the bead and just cut a piece that's the right size to go around the outside of that bead. You thread that onto your thin wire. Thread that onto your thin wire like that. And then you go around the outside of that bead. Just put that right close so you can see what I mean. Then you just twist that thin wire around the thicker wire a couple of times. And you have got yourself a decorative loop of wire. And we'll add more of that decorative wire on later, so any bits you add in like that will just blend in with it beautifully. So right, I'm going to add some more beads on now. So again, you slide it down so it's a few millimeters away from the thicker wire. If you're using a bigger bead, you might want to go a bit further away. And then as you twist it up, it should get closer to that thicker wire. Another thing you can do, if you feel like they're getting a bit loose, is just put that thinner wire, just do it for a loop around the thicker wire. And then add on another bead. Seem to be going for quite big beads on this one. You can use, if you've got any leftover beads from your middle ones, because you might not use, so in your kits there are 2 packs of beads, 1 pack of smaller beads for doing this bit I'm doing now, and 1 pack of bigger beads for doing the going on the thick wire. I've used about 23 beads on my thick wire, but you might use less. If you've got any left, you can use them for this part of the project. go through the next bead. Oh, this one, so this one, you see I demoed on the last one because I said, oh, we'll just demo on this one. But this one, the hole is actually too small to get my thin wire through. So what we're going to do is use some of that decorative wire again. So we get a little piece of it. So this one on this bead was probably a little bit big, but that's okay. I'm just going to make sure this one's not too big. About there. Take it off. Thread it onto the wire. Twist it around thick wire. And then I'm going to add some little beads on. And don't be scared to try a weird shaped one as well, because this one's going to look a bit weird when twisted up with a wire, but I think when it's lost in the general melee of the other beads, it could look quite cool. So try whatever you've got in your pack, give it a go, see how it looks. These rubbery ones, the little donut ones, if you've got some of them in your kit, they're a little bit harder to do the twist with because you could end up, the wire could slice through them, I think. So just be a little bit careful when you're twisting them up that you don't pull too hard and accidentally cut it in half. Because, you know, that'd be all right for the first few, but you would run out of beads. Let's put the next one on. And I'm just twisting the wire. And then I'm going to take my small wire and run it through the centre of the next big bead. That one fits. All good. Oh, morning, Emma. Oh, that's all right. I was thinking it was just going to be me on my own. But I can see you're all just having a lazy Saturday morning, which is really understandable. So you're going to put down the next little bead. And you're going to give it a twist. And my wire's getting pretty short now, so I'm going to add on a new bit of wire. I might do it now actually. I was thinking maybe I'd get another one out. So just to add on a new bit of wire, it's really easy. Just take this little one, just twist it around your centre one a few times so that you know it's nice and secure. Push that twist up to so it's next to your bead. And then just get your scissors and snip it off. Get yourself another bit of wire. Again, I'd say about a 2 foot bit of wire is good length. You don't want it to be too long because if it's too long, you get it all tangled up. I've got it all tangled up already. Happens. And then get your old scissors or your wire snips and just cut a bit off. So just making sure that's straight, running it through my fingers. And to start it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to poke that wire back through that bead. So take it back through the last bead I went through. I'm going to try anyway. Come on, wire, go through. Right, so when it pokes out the other end, just to secure it, wrap it around that centre wire a couple of times. And then just use your scissors to give it a little trim. Okay, let's get adding. So you've got some really little beads in your kit, and they're quite nice to use as well, just to add a bit of variety to size. I seem to have gone for the really big ones, but do mix it up, please. And you're putting about 3 beads in each gap. If you want to, you can add more. Just be aware that you don't run out of beads before you get to the end of your wreath. So it's exactly the same with the little beads. Thread them down and twist them on. This one doesn't seem to be twisting so well because there's less to hold on to. That'll do. I'm going to go through another big one in a minute, just putting one more in this gap. Yeah, the main wire is 1 millimeter thick, and the small wire I'm using, this one's about 0.33 thick. The thick wire, you can use thicker, it's just about getting it through the holes in your beads, and the thin wire, you can use thinner, and you can use a little thicker, but I wouldn't really go over 0.4 for the thin wire. So then this thin wire goes through the next big bead. Got a little kink at the end, just get that out. Here we go. Oh, so here we might have another one that we have to use the decorative wire for. So like I said, you can just go around the outside of the bead. If we're going to use the decorative wire, just wrap your main wire around, wrap your thin wire around your centre wire once, and then get your decorative wire out. Measure around the outside of the bead so you know you're getting a right length piece. Cut a bit off. And thread it onto the thin wire. And then just wrap it around your main wire a couple of times to secure it. Push everything down. And then you can just take a minute now to kind of, well, don't worry about this too much till the end, but you want to make sure all these decorative beads are kind of on one side. There'll be a front and a back to this decoration. So you kind of want to just bend them all up so they're all facing the top. But yeah, they're bound to get out of place again, so don't worry too much about it. And get your next bead on. Slide it down. And give it a little twist to hold it in place. And your next one. Slide it down. And give it a little twist to hold it in place. And your next one, slide it down and give it a little twist. And then I'm going to take my thin wire through my next bead. Oh. Pull it through the centre of that bead and push all your beads up so they're all nice and close together. And then get twisting. So you thread that bead down your centre and that little wire till it's a few millimetres away from your main wire and give it a twist. And do vary them, so some are closer in and some stick out further, because that will look really nice. It's definitely worth doing. And do try and keep those beads, I like to keep them up mixed up as possible. Try and keep them totally random. I think that gives it a really nice feel. But you might have guessed that from all my beaded workshop projects. I like a real mix of beads. I think the texture you can get with lots of different sizes and shapes of beads is just lovely. So much more fun. Go down the centre of this big bead here. Oh, I say that, might not go. Might be, oh no, it will, it's gone. So go through the centre of the big bead next to the 1mm wire. Slide that big bead up. It's quite a big bead here, so I might use, I don't know, mix it up, but I might use some bigger beads. Bigger beads here, sort of balance it out. Where is the hole? There it is. Twist that up. Oh, that one sticks out quite far. That's all right, I guess. Just have to use another big one. So if you want to keep this project quicker, you can just make a smaller wreath. You don't have to make a wreath that's as big as mine. That's totally up to you. I think this is a nice size. I think it's a nice size for hanging on your tree or in your window. It's like little but visible. We've got the decoupage bauble on Tuesday evening. So I've just made an event for that over on the Shop in the Square page. So after this workshop, head over there and click going so you get the notifications. That's going to be really fun. Oh, hi Nikki. Oh, that sounds fun, Nikki. Crafty Christmas Eve. Lovely. It's one of the joy of these videos is you can watch them whenever. Yeah, and then next Saturday, it's the last one before Christmas holiday. And I've got a beautiful idea of what we're going to do. It's going to be really lovely, but I haven't actually made one yet, so you're going to have to watch this space. But you will need a satsuma or a clementine, a small orange fruit basically. You'll need cloves. You'll need maybe some pins and some ribbon. Some string. I'm using like a garden twine because it looks better. You need some sticks. If you bought the craft bundle, then everything you need is in it apart from the satsuma. So get your own clementine or satsuma for that one because it's going to be really nice. Really nice decoration we'll make. But yeah, I couldn't post you a clementine or a satsuma. It would go mouldy by the time it was time for the workshop anyway. So I'm running out of wire, so I'm going to add a new bit on. So really easy. All I'm going to do, just threaded it through that bead. I'm just going to twist it round the main wire a couple of times and just trim it off. Can't wait to see photos of all your wreaths, so please get on the group and share them. So I'm going to cut another bit of wire about 2 foot long. And I don't seem to be threading it. You can thread it back through the bead to make it more secure, but I'm just cheating and just twisting it around the middle wire here. And you see my wreath is getting quite big already. I might have put too many centre beads on this because it starts to really spread them out as you add these little decorative beads on to the sides. So I might not use all the beads on my length. So I'm just going to keep going and then see how I feel because I can always take some of these off. But yeah, just keep going for now. Which bead next? Do this one again. One of these. I love these ones, these shell ones. I'm afraid they're not in everyone's kits because I only got my hands on them towards the middle of December. But they are in some of your kits, these shell ones, and I do think they are really nice. So apologies if you haven't got them. You've still got lovely beads. I made sure everyone's kits had lovely beads. And don't forget to keep adding in some of those smaller ones as well. And make sure you're thinking a little bit about leaving, as well as using an ice mix, leaving an ice mix so you don't end up with all the same one on the last few. So bear that in mind as you work. I'm just threading it on the thin wire. Giving it a little twist when we get to the bottom. And because this wire's just been added on, it's quite mobile, but when we put it through that next bead, it should really hold it in place. Let's see if we get the thin wire through. Yep, it's gone through. Great. Pull it through, and then let's add on some more little ones. Keep thinking about that mix. You don't want to get to the last ones and have only red beads left. It would be sad. Okay, I'm just going to check the size of it again. Well, it's a bit small. I'm definitely going to have a few more beads on it. Let's see, maybe that many, maybe a couple more. We'll see. We'll see how I feel as I go. That's it. Keep making up your mind as you go along. Don't have to stick to a plan. It's your wreath. Make it however you want. You want a small one. If you get bored, you can just think, that'll do. If you want to keep going and make it bigger, well, you might run out of beads, but, you know, go for it. Go for it, I say. Why not? Enjoy. So I'm just sliding them down and giving them a little twist to hold them in place. And that twist, it's not like I'm putting in a few twists so they're quite secure, but it really could just be one twist. It's just kind of stops them from wiggling around too much. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to try. This one might... Oh, we've got another one with a little hole, so a bit of that decorative wire. It's very small beads. I only need a short bit of decorative wire to go around the outside of this. But I've cut it a long bit anyway. So I could cut this down to size, or I could just leave a nice big loop going around the outside. And then when you get to the top of the bead, just wrap that thin wire around the middle wire a couple of times. And add on a couple more little beads. I've got to say, it's quite hard working at this like this. I kind of want to have it closer to my face. I can't really Can't really see what I'm doing very well. I'm just kind of guessing. So, you know, that goes for both of us. Oh, thanks, Lynn. Yeah. Can't beat a bit of red and gold and green for Christmas, can you? It just screams Christmas. Put up my Christmas tree last night, which was very exciting. I wanted to do it earlier, but I've been so busy I haven't had time. Oh well, good to be busy. Keeps me out of trouble. But I do love a good Christmas tree. Up through the middle of the next one. Slide it up. Slide the next bead down, and let's add on some little beads. Getting there, getting there. Just a few more beads to go. It's getting quite long, so I'm thinking I probably won't end up using all the big beads I've got in the middle. But it's nice to have them there because it means it's kind of more of an option if they're just sitting there looking at you. Oh, that's it. Yeah, red and gold Christmas tree. Beautiful. My Christmas tree is, yeah, it's definitely not themed. I just get, if I see, I like to get handmade ornaments. So whenever I see a beautiful handmade ornament at a craft stall or at a shop, I'll pick that up and then that goes on my tree. Or I also like to get weird things at charity shops. Like there's a lot of sparkly birds in my tree that aren't necessarily Christmassy, but I don't know what else to do with them and I do quite like them. So just check the size of that now. So that's getting to be about the size I want it. Maybe just a couple more. I think just these two maybe. Let's see. Yeah, those two as well I think, and then we'll be done. But I'm running out of wire, so that's why I was thinking, oh, maybe it's a natural finishing point. But no, I'd rather just add a new bit of wire on and keep going. Just trim that bit off. Get my final bit of wire. I've threaded it back through the bead this time. Oh, you know, I like to mix it up. You can just wrap it around, you know what, I'm just gonna wrap it around the center wire. That was annoying me. So yeah, just to start it off, just wrap it around the center wire a couple of times. Bend that out your way so you don't scratch yourself like I just did. Wrap it around the center wire a couple of times. Cut off the little end. Slide it down. Ouch. Slide this up with a bead. Here we go. Let's do my final beads. So I've got a very special series of workshops planned for January. So they're going to all be, so it's going to be some wire working and some macrame, but all gemstone themed. So watch out for those, because we're going to make some beautiful stuff, and there's going to be some really, I'm going to make up a really nice bundle, because I think everyone's going to need cheering up in January. Christmas is going to be over, and there's still going to be this pandemic making everything a bit harder and more grim. So yeah, look out for the workshops in January. I've got something really special planned. I'm going to take a couple of weeks off over Christmas to recuperate and relax, but I will definitely be back, so don't forget about me. I mean, I don't know how you could with all your beautiful Christmas ornaments that you've made with me. You'll be constantly reminded. But yeah, I love gemstones and I love working with gemstones, so I thought it'd be really nice to do some workshops sort of focused around gemstones and all the different ways you can use them in jewellery making and ornament making. Well, obviously not all the ways. A few of the ways, that's more accurate description. A few of the ways you can use them in ornament making and jewellery making. The projects are going to be, there's going to be some more advanced macrame, because I know you guys like a bit of macrame and you're good at it, so I think you can handle some next level stuff. Right, this one's a bit big to go through the centre of, so I'll just get some decorative wire to go down the outside of it. I've just totally guessed how much I needed there, but you can wrap it around the bead to measure it, thread it down the little wire and wrap it around the outside. And I think, oh gosh, I should have wrapped around this end as well, but you can do that. Just tidying it up. I think that might be where I'm going to stop. Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to take off my extra beads. I'm going to straighten that wire out. You might have to bend it around a little bit to get it straight enough to get the beads off. Then the next stage is connecting these two thick wires together. And what I did with this one was I kind of made a bit of a mess of it and then just added some little beads over the top so you didn't see it. Let's see if we can do something tidier with this one. But also, let's not worry if it doesn't turn out tidier. Let's just go with it. So I'm just going to take these two wires, these two centre wires, and I'm just going to loop them round each other. So one goes round one. Well, no, maybe let's not do that. I'm trying to think of a nice simple way to finish it off. I'm just going to twist them together. So like we've been twisting the thin wires together, I'm going to twist these two end wires together. And that's created a bit of a bit sticking up, and that's okay. And I'm just going to twist that together so it's nice and long. Then I'm going to choose my front and my back of my wreath. So your beads might already be clustering on one side, so I think this is my front here. You can do a bit of arranging of those little beads. But let's get this bit finished off first. So I'm just going to take this bit round the back, and you can kind of use it as well to create a little loop. So I'm going to bend it over to create a little loop. I'm going to then use this other end, and you don't have to do exactly this. You honestly just have to somehow connect them together and get them out of the way. So I've just bent that other end round once to hold it all securely in place, and then I'm going to use my old scissors to cut that. If you've got a pair of pliers handy, any pliers will do, you know, DIY pliers, whatever, you can just use them to tidy up these little ends so you don't have spiky ends sticking out. Then I'm just going to, I've got my long wire here still. I've got this little bit here I don't need, so I'll just cut that off, get rid of that. But this long wire, I'm just going to make a cluster of these little beads to hide my silver loopy bit because it's a bit out of place, not being red, gold and green. Just slide the beads down, twist them on. Green one next. And we've just got a couple more stages of this process left before we finish up. We're nearly there. And perfect timing, getting on for an hour. You know what, sometimes I do these projects and I'm amazed how much time they take, because I don't time it when I'm making the first one because I'm usually designing it as I make it. So I don't really know. I just sort of think, yeah, it'll probably take about an hour. So when they do take an hour, I'm like, oh, that's worked out well. Good for me. Slide the next bead down. Give it a little twist. And push them all into place. Okay, so there we have it, our beaded wreath. So now you can have a really good tidy up of these little ones. And I'll show you the final stage. You just want to make sure, just sort of push all these little ones round to the front. So you can have them sort of at the sides and you can have them at the back, but they're going to look best at the front of your ornaments. So the two final stages. So you've got some of this decorative wire left over, and that's what we're going to do next, is use that. I'm just going to try and remember what I did with this one. And what I do for that is just get a piece of thin wire, that's as long as it is, run it through the middle all the way. Might take a bit of wiggling. Might take a lot of wiggling, especially if there's any kinks in the decorative wire. Gosh, might be here all day. Okay, so the thin wires come out either end, and you've got your other wire in the middle. So what we're going to do is just twist the thin wire around at the top. Oh, you can get rid of that last piece of that thin wire that we're using for the beads as well. We don't need that. And then we're just going to use this gold decorative wire to go around our wreath, just to add a little bit of sparkly interest. And that wire through the middle, it's not actually necessary. You could just wrap it around your wreath without that wire through the middle, but I think it just helps it gives it a bit more structure. It means if it gets caught on something, it's not going to get pulled out of shape. And you can kind of use this wire to help collect all your little twisted beads at the top of your wreath. Stop them from running under your wreath. You can kind of use it to hold them around the top. So just do that, get all the way around. Oh, I seem to be going round twice. Let's go back a minute. Could do it a bit more around here, really. So just make sure you're happy with how it's going on, how you're arranging it, where it's going. Think about it aesthetically as you do it. I'm sure you are. I've got so much faith in you. When you get back up to the top, you can go around more if you've got extra. I had extra, so I'm just going to, I think I'm just going to finish up here though. So if you've got too much here, all you have to do is use your fingernails to separate the kinks in that wire out. Pull it out a bit, so you've got some straight wires. And then you can just wrap that around something, the main wire, the loop at the top, to tidy it up. Now on this one, if you've got, some of the kits have a little bit of like hessian stuff that you can make your little tie out of, and some of the kits have a bit of ribbon. And all you're doing with that is finding your little loop that we made out of the middle wires and threading. Oh yeah, it's so simple. You just thread it through this little loop, which if I'd made bigger, it would have been simple. Hey, if you're struggling to thread it through, what you can do is get one of these thin bits of wire and create a needle threader by bending it in half, sticking it through that loop at the top, getting your ribbon, putting it through the needle threader, and then pulling it back through the loop at the top. Dun, dun, dun. And there we have it, the beaded wreath. So thank you so much for joining me. I've really enjoyed myself. I'm just going to put the camera up so we can say goodbye properly. Thank you so much for joining me. I've really enjoyed this morning. So I want to see photos of your beaded wreaths, please. So get on the group and share those. And I'll see you Tuesday evening to do decoupage baubles. I'll share that on the group. So if you're not a member, join the group, get creative, free online workshops, share your photos, have a look at my photos. It'll be fun.